Dr. Warren has done a lot of work with New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and many other publications because you do a lot of work with polling, and people come to you to kind of decipher and make sense of all that. Before we get started locally, I just want to pick up on something that Rob was talking about there, that he foresees immigration being a topic of an important topic in this next year. You and I were talking just a little bit while that was playing. Immigration is really not on anyone's radar right now, but you think that he could be right about that. Why would immigration be something that, say, the Republicans would be interested in talking about?
Because there's bipartisan support for it. One thing that hurt Republicans in the last election was overall their stand on immigration, a hardline stand against it. And many Republicans did not feel that way, but the leadership did, the people running for office did, so they took this hard stand. I think that the polls are showing that the American people want liberalized immigration policies, such as making it easier for aliens to get legal status in Missouri and elsewhere in the United States.
Okay, so speaking of polls, is there any influence that we have in a non-election year, if you will? We voted for them in November. Are they off the chain, so to speak, until the next election, or do we have some influence? And I'm leading you into the poll question here, if it's not obvious. But
well, as a pollster, look, politicians like to pretend that they don't have to follow polls. They're guided more by principle than polls, but this is a bunch of baloney. Politicians that don't follow polls, to some extent, are not going to follow them to their peril. They need to follow polls because polls are the pulse of democracy in some respects. You know, Koch used to go around, Mayor Koch used to go around and say, how am I doing? Abraham Lincoln, in fact, not during formal years of polling, but used to send his people out to ask how he was doing, you know, whether or not people support this or do not support that.
So if we're engaged and we happen to be a part of a poll, then there's some influence it has in these off years, if you will. Well, okay, let's talk about the issues. Let's start in Missouri. We've heard a lot about this Medicaid issue, the possible expansion of it. The governor wants that. How do the polls read on that in terms of our support for something like that, do you think?
In Missouri, because Republicans have controlled the state, at least through the legislature, have pushed against Obamacare. So it's unpopular in this state right now. But my opinion is that because nationally Obamacare is much more popular and many states are opting to cooperate with Obamacare, that Missouri will have to follow, because it will become very obvious as poll numbers get more and more favorable toward Obamacare, particularly the expansion of Medicaid and what it really means to states, that it would be disastrous for a lot of Republican politicians in running for re-election to, in fact, oppose Obamacare. You know, rural hospitals will go out of business, it is projected, if the expansion of Medicare does not take place.
So this is a calculated risk the governor has made. What do you see for the governor in Missouri, his second term, his final term as governor? He's got a supermajority of the opposite party that can override his veto. Give me your prediction on kind of his, will he go along to get along, or do we see a little bit of feistiness out of that?
Jay Nixon's always gone along to get along. That's one characteristic that he has. He plays to public opinion, and so therefore he probably won't push Medicaid expansion too much, but he is trying to sell it because he knows as governor it's favorable to the interests of the state.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, how the Republicans in the state legislature will react in the long run is a good question. You know, again, as Joe Manis says, this is not an election year. So even though the Republicans ideologically oppose the expansion of Medicaid in this state, in the long run, by the time they run in 2014 for re-election, it might be a foregone conclusion that it's something that the state has to have, because in my opinion, a lot of states by 2014 are going to opt for expanding Medicaid in their states.
Just like in Missouri, Illinois also has a supermajority, but from the other party. The Democrats control the show there. What does the party in the minority have to do for the next couple of years if they're really outgunned, outnumbered here? What kind of role can they play to be effective in any way in their respective states?
Well, in Missouri, it's going to be tough because, as you said, the Republicans have a veto-proof, bulletproof majority. The Democrats will have to try to play to the people in order to get public opinion up, particularly on the issue we're talking about, on Medicaid expansion, in order to make the people of Missouri realize that Medicaid expansion in Missouri is best for the people of Missouri.
Well, what else is piquing your interest as you look ahead to 2013? I know this is your bread and butter here. What else would you like to see happen, or do you expect to see happen, I should say?
In Missouri or nationally?
Well, your call, Speaker's choice.
Well, I think, to follow on the Medicaid thing, I do think that it's something that if you really look into it, rural hospitals need it, and I would like to see the Democrats prevail in convincing Missourians that it's best to get the poll numbers up so when Republicans look at these poll numbers and look at what other states will do, they will opt for expanding Medicaid.
Dr. Ken Warren, thank you for your time. We
My pleasure.
appreciate it very much.